On that autumn afternoon, the suburban neighborhood outside Chicago was wrapped in silence. Emily Hamilton was gazing at the maple tree's red foliage visible from the kitchen window as she began preparing dinner. She wanted to have David's favorite roast chicken perfectly ready before her husband came home. The sound of the front door opening came with the words, "I'm home." David's footsteps echoed in the hallway, and Emily's heart warmed. Even after 12 years of marriage, waiting for her husband's return remained one of the happiest moments of her day. Emily turned around and greeted her husband while taking off her apron. David worked as a project manager at an IT company. He was tall with a gentle personality, the ideal husband for Emily. "Smells wonderful." "Thank you for another day," David said, giving Emily a light kiss on her forehead and loosening his tie as he headed toward the dining table. Emily worked part-time at the local library, but she had chosen to put family first. The couple, who had not been blessed with children, cherished each other and had built a peaceful life together. Emily sometimes wondered what it would have been like if they had children, but she was completely satisfied with the time she had alone with David. During dinner, Emily's cell phone rang. Jessica's name appeared on the screen. "It's Jessie," Emily explained to David as she answered the phone. "Hello, Jessie?" "Emmy. How are you?" "I have something I want to tell you," came Jessica's bright voice from the other end. She worked as a hairstylist and had a social, active personality that contrasted with Emily's. Jessica, with her long blonde hair and blue eyes, always liked being the center of attention. "What's wrong? Is Sophie okay?" Emily asked about her 8-month-old niece. Sophie was Jessica and her husband Tom's daughter, and she was special to Emily. "Sophie's fine. Listen, sis, I have a favor to ask. Tom and I are going on a trip starting next week. About 2 weeks, I think. I'm sorry, but could you babysit Sophie?" Emily was surprised. It was unusual for Jessica to leave Sophie for such a long period. 2 whole weeks? Where are you going? California. It's for Tom's work, and I'm going with him. I'm really sorry it's so sudden. But I feel safe with you. Jessica's husband Tom worked in construction. A muscular man with tan skin, he had been with Jessica since high school, and they married 3 years ago. Emily had accepted him as a brother-in-law, but sometimes his rough manner confused her. "Of course I'll take care of Sophie. But are you really okay? You say it's work-related, but..." "It's fine. I'll tell you the details later." "Thank you, Emmy. I'm so grateful you're here." Jessica's voice carried a tone of relief. After hanging up, Emily explained the situation to David. "Jessie wants to leave Sophie with us for 2 weeks. She says they're going to California for Tom's work." David frowned slightly. 2 weeks? That's unusual. But Sophie's adorable, and I'm fine with it. "Thank you. It's reassuring to have you here." Emily was grateful for her husband's understanding. The next evening, Emily visited her parents, Robert and Margaret's house. They were living a quiet retirement in their suburban home. "Dad, Mom, Jessie's going on a trip starting next week, so I'll be taking care of Sophie," Emily explained to her parents in the living room. Margaret stopped her knitting and looked up. "Oh, really? Actually, we're also planning to go on a spa trip next week. Robert has a class reunion too." "Really? What a coincidence," Emily was surprised. It was unusual for the entire family to make plans at the same time. Robert said without looking up from his newspaper, Jessica should enjoy traveling while she's young. Child rearing is tough. Emily felt something was off, but she didn't voice it. She told herself it was natural for family members to be busy with their own things. Monday morning, Emily finished her part-time shift at the library and came home. When she opened the front door, David was sitting on the sofa with a laptop on his knees, staring intently at something. Since he would normally be at work at this time, Emily was surprised. "David? Why are you home? Are you feeling sick?" Emily asked while putting her bag down in the entryway. David hastily closed the laptop and looked slightly tense. Oh, Emily. Actually, I switched to working from home this afternoon. There was a sudden meeting. I see. Good work. Emily felt something was off about her husband's behavior, but she didn't pursue it deeply. Working from home wasn't unusual in the IT industry lately, and she didn't think David had any reason to lie. That evening, Jessica called again. This time to discuss the details. Emmy, I'll bring Sophie over tomorrow evening. Thank you so much. Jessica's voice seemed a bit more high-pitched than before. That's fine. But you'll give me your contact information, right? In case something happens, Emily asked a practical question. Of course. The hotel name and everything, I'll email it to you later. But could you not contact us unless it's an emergency? Since it's a special trip, Tom and I want to relax together. Emily was a bit surprised. Jessica was usually nervously worried about Sophie to the point of being neurotic. Of course. But are you really okay? It's unusual for you to be away from Sophie for 2 weeks. It's fine. Actually, this trip is related to an important project at Tom's company. If it goes well, it might lead to Tom's promotion. So I want to go with him and support him. Jessica's explanation sounded plausible at first glance, but Emily felt something didn't quite add up. Tom's company was a small local construction firm, and she couldn't imagine they handled big projects that would require business trips to California. The next night, Jessica and Tom came to Emily's house with Sophie. Sophie was unusually friendly for an 8-month-old baby, and when she saw Emily, she happily reached out her hands. Sophie, be a good girl at your aunt's house, Jessica said while holding her daughter, but her voice seemed to lack the usual maternal affection. Tom stood in the entryway holding a suitcase, restlessly checking his watch. Jessie, we need to go soon. We have a flight to catch. Right, Jessica handed Sophie to Emily. Thank you so much, Emmy. I'll come pick her up in 2 weeks. Emily asked while receiving Sophie, what about the hotel contact information? Oh, right, Jessica hurriedly took out her cell phone and opened a memo app. I'll email it to you later. I'm in a hurry right now. Tom was already heading toward the door. Let's go then. The two left hurriedly, and Emily was left behind with Sophie in her arms. Sophie realized her mother had left and began to cry, but Emily gently held her close to calm her down. It's okay, Sophie. Your aunt is here. That night when David came home, Emily introduced him to Sophie. David smiled gently when he saw the baby, but he seemed somewhat distracted. She's cute. But Emily, I'll probably have to go on a business trip starting next week too, David suddenly announced while eating dinner. Emily stopped her chopsticks in surprise. A business trip? Starting when? From next Wednesday. The duration isn't clear yet, but it might be about 2 weeks, David answered without meeting her eyes. 2 weeks? Emily was confused. But I have to take care of Sophie. Sorry, it really is sudden. A client request came in for a project that absolutely requires me to go. It's an important contract with a Silicon Valley company. While listening to her husband's explanation, Emily noticed a strange coincidence. Jessica and Tom were also going to California, and David was going to Silicon Valley too. It seemed too convenient to be a coincidence. Silicon Valley, that's where Jessie and Tom are going to California too, isn't it? I wonder if it's close. Emily asked casually. David paused for a moment. Well, California is big, so it depends on where they are. Maybe you could meet up somewhere, Emily suggested innocently. Well, I'll be busy with work, so I don't think I'll have time for that, David answered hurriedly. That night, Emily lay in bed thinking. It was definitely unnatural for the entire family to go away at the same time. Her parents on a spa trip, Jessica and Tom on a California trip, and David on a California business trip too. The timing was as if they had coordinated it. The next morning, while Emily was walking Sophie in the stroller around the neighborhood, she ran into her neighbor Martha Johnson. Martha was known as the neighborhood's information hub. "Emily, what a cute baby. Is she a visitor?" Martha asked with interest. "She's my sister's child. I'm taking care of her for 2 weeks," Emily explained. "Oh, I see. Is your husband helping take care of her too?" "Actually, David will be away on business too. So it's just me alone." Emily looked somewhat troubled. Martha frowned. "That must be difficult. But I've been seeing your husband around a lot lately. I've seen him driving out during the day several times. Is he working from home a lot?" Emily was surprised. David hadn't mentioned that he went out during the day. That might be it. Work-related. But in her heart, doubts were growing. Was David really working from home? Or was there some other reason? That afternoon, Emily called her parents. She wanted to hear details about the spa trip. "Mom, when does the spa trip start?" "From next Thursday," Margaret's voice sounded somewhat tense. "Because of your father's class reunion." "Which spa?" "If it's nearby, Sophie and I might be able to visit." "It's far away. Out of state. Besides, the reunion is just for men, so I plan to relax at the spa." Emily felt something was off about her mother's explanation. It was unusual for her parents to go on a spa trip out of state. Why would her parents, who were usually careful about spending, go so far away? After hanging up, Emily continued caring for Sophie while feeling anxious. The baby laughed innocently and held Emily's hands, but Emily's heart was filled with complex emotions. The loneliness of being left behind by her entire family mixed with questions about the inexplicable coincidences. However, Emily wanted to trust her family. She told herself it must just be a series of coincidences. The next day, Emily was spending peaceful time with Sophie. The baby was in a good mood, playing with toys on Emily's lap. David had left early in the morning saying he was going to the office to prepare for the business trip. Emily was enjoying the time with a baby for the first time in a while. Sophie's tiny hands gripping her fingers, her innocent smile, and the meaningless words she occasionally uttered, all of these filled Emily's heart with warmth. "Sophie, you'll be fine even without Mama and Papa. I'll take good care of you," Emily spoke to the baby while gently stroking her cheek. Around 2 p.m., Emily was having tea beside Sophie, who was napping. Outside, warm autumn sunlight streamed in, and peaceful afternoon time was flowing. Then the telephone rang. Emily quickly answered the phone. She responded in a small voice so as not to wake Sophie. "Hello, this is Hamilton." "Is this Emily Hamilton?" "This is the California State Police," came a calm man's voice from the other end. Emily felt as if her heart stopped for a moment. A call from the police could never be good news. "Yes, that's me. Has something happened?" "Jessica Miller has been in an accident. Your husband David Hamilton and your parents Robert Johnson and Margaret Johnson were also in the same car, and all have been transported to the hospital." Emily felt her hand holding the phone tremble. The police officer's words echoed in her head, but it took time for her to understand their meaning. "Wait, did you say my husband David was there?" "Yes, David Hamilton. We confirmed it with his driver's license." Emily's world collapsed in an instant. Why was David with her sister Jessica? And why were her parents in the same car too? "How is everyone's condition?" Emily asked in a trembling voice. "They're conscious, but they need examination." "Could a family member come?" "They're at San Francisco General Hospital." Emily's mind went blank. San Francisco. Jessica had certainly said she was going to California, but David being in the same place couldn't be a coincidence. And her parents too. "I understand. I'll head there right away." After hanging up, Emily couldn't move for a while. Sophie started crying. The baby had woken up and looked anxious as if she sensed something. Emily hurriedly picked up Sophie. "What should I do, Sophie?" "Everyone's been in an accident," Emily spoke to the baby while trying to calm herself. She had to prepare quickly. She needed to pack Sophie's things, get herself ready, and book a flight. But most importantly, there was the question of why the entire family was in the same place. Emily thought while calling the airline. Had David's business trip been a lie? If so, why had he lied? And why were her parents there too? 3 hours later, Emily was on an airplane holding Sophie. During the flight, she considered various possibilities. But none of them made sense. Had her entire family been lying to her? That evening, Emily arrived at San Francisco General Hospital and asked at reception for her family's room. Sophie was sleeping from exhaustion. Hamilton, Miller, and Johnson patients, correct? They're in the ward on the 3rd floor, the receptionist guided her. While going up to the 3rd floor in the elevator, Emily's heart was filled with complex emotions. Her worry about her family's safety mixed with questions about why they were all together. When she reached the ward, a nurse approached. "You're a family member, aren't you?" Fortunately, everyone suffered only minor injuries. However, they'll need to stay overnight for examination. "Can I see everyone?" Emily asked. "Yes, but one at a time, please." "Who would you like to see first?" Emily hesitated. She wanted to understand the situation first. "Jessica, my sister, please." When Emily entered Jessica's room, her sister was lying in bed. She had bandages wrapped around her head and an IV in her arm. When she saw Emily, Jessica's face went pale. "Emmy, why are you here?" Jessica's voice was weak. "The police called me." "Are you okay?" Emily approached the bedside while holding Sophie. "I'm fine." "But what about Sophie?" "I brought Sophie with me." "Jessie, why were David and my parents with you?" Emily's voice carried confusion. Jessica looked away. "It's complicated." "Complicated how?" "Did you all conspire to lie to me?" Emily's voice gradually grew stronger. "Emmy, calm down." "I'll explain," Jessica said weakly. "Explain then. Why is my husband with you? Why even my parents?" Jessica was silent for a long time. Then she finally spoke. "Emmy, sit down. We need to talk." Emily sat in the chair and placed Sophie on her lap. The baby was still sleeping. "Actually, David and I..." Jessica hesitated to continue. "David and I have been seeing each other for the past 6 months." Emily was speechless. It took time for her to understand the meaning of the words that came from her sister's mouth. "Seeing each other, you don't mean..." "It's an affair." "David and I are having an affair," Jessica confessed while looking away. Emily stood up. Sophie on her lap let out a small cry. "An affair? My husband and my sister?" Emily's voice was shaking. "I'm sorry, Emmy. But we really love each other." "Love each other?" Emily stared at her sister in disbelief. "So this trip was?" "We wanted to spend time alone together. So we asked you to take care of Sophie." Emily felt dizzy. Everything had been planned. The babysitting request, David's business trip, it was all lies. "Did my parents know?" Emily asked in a trembling voice. Jessica nodded. "Dad and Mom knew too. They came with us this time. They are supporting our relationship." Emily felt like she was going to collapse. Her entire family had betrayed her. Her husband, her sister, her parents. And she alone had been kept in the dark about everything. "So you all deceived me together," Emily said through tears. "Emmy, listen. We didn't want to hurt anyone. But love couldn't be stopped. Didn't want to hurt anyone? Emily trembled with anger. How hurt do you think I am right now? Sophie began to cry. The baby was crying anxiously, as if sensing the emotions of the woman holding her instead of her mother. Emily stood up and left the room holding Sophie. In the hospital corridor, Emily tried to sort through her emotions while holding the crying Sophie. However, anger, sadness, and above all, a deep sense of betrayal gripped her chest, making it difficult to remain calm. A nurse approached. Are you all right? Would you like to see other family members? Emily nodded. She needed to know the whole truth. Let me see my husband. When Emily entered David's room, her husband was lying in bed wearing a neck brace. When he saw Emily, his face turned red with embarrassment. Emily. I didn't think you'd come here. David's voice was weak, lacking its usual confident tone. You probably didn't think so. Who would have imagined that a wife would find out about her husband's affair trip? Emily said in a cold voice. David looked away. You heard from Jessica. 6 months ago? Why? Why my sister? Emily questioned him through tears. Emily, this wasn't something we planned. It just happened, David began to explain painfully. Just happened? You think an affair happens by accident? Emily's voice shook with anger. It was during last year's Christmas party. Jessica came to the house, and after you went out shopping, we were talking. She was troubled about her marriage, and I was feeling something was missing in my relationship with you two. Emily stared at her husband in disbelief. Something missing? Was there some problem with our marriage? Emily, you're a wonderful wife. But Jessica is different. She gave me new excitement. She needed me. Are you saying I didn't need you? Emily raised her voice. Sophie started crying again, so she rocked the baby to calm her. That's not it. But my relationship with Jessica was passionate. I felt truly alive for the first time in a long while. Emily was deeply hurt by her husband's words. 12 years of marriage had been dismissed as lacking excitement. So this trip was all planned, wasn't it? David nodded. I wanted to spend time alone with Jessica. By having you take care of Sophie, we thought we could be free. My parents knew too. Emily remembered her parents. Yes. They were against it at first, but Jessica persuaded them. She told your parents that she'd be happier marrying me. And that you would eventually understand. Emily was speechless. Her entire family had been trying to decide her life for her. Does Tom know? We were planning to talk to Tom about divorce. Actually, he had been somewhat aware. Lately, his relationship with Jessica hadn't been going well. Emily became even more confused. So Tom didn't come on this trip? Tom stayed for work. We told him it wasn't a trip with friends. But we were planning to discuss divorce when we returned. Everything had been planned. Everyone knew except Emily. She had been completely left out. You were all planning to decide my life without consulting me at all. Emily's voice shook with anger and sadness. Emily, we didn't want to hurt you. So we were waiting for the right timing. The right timing? While you were enjoying your affair trip? David couldn't answer. After a long silence, Emily stood up. Let me ask you one thing. Did you really love me? Or was I just a convenient existence from the beginning? David didn't answer for a long time. Then he finally spoke. I did love you, Emily. But it was stable love. My love with Jessica is different. It's burning. Emily didn't want to hear anymore. She left the room and headed to her parents' room. Her father Robert and mother Margaret were in the same room. Both had only minor bruises, but they looked confused when they saw Emily. Emily, why are you here? Margaret said in surprise. The police contacted me, Mom. More importantly, why did you keep this from me? Emily asked in a quiet but stern tone. Robert sighed heavily. Emily, sit down. Let me explain. I don't need to sit. I'll listen standing. Margaret spoke up. It was hard to tell you. But Jessica and David really love each other. We want them to be happy. What about my happiness? Emily stared at her parents. Of course your happiness is important too. But your marriage with David, it seemed like there was no love left, Robert said quietly. No love? Who has the right to decide that? Emily, calm down, Margaret said soothingly. Jessica isn't as strong as you are. She needs a man like David. Emily was shocked by her mother's words. So because I'm strong, I'll be fine alone? That's not what we mean. But you're a strong woman. You'll surely be able to build a new life. A new life? When I never wanted one? Robert said in a heavy tone, Emily, we're thinking about the whole family. We thought everyone would be happy if Jessica and David got together. Everyone meaning everyone except me, right? Emily, we thought you'd understand with time, Margaret made excuses. Emily looked at her parents and sighed deeply. You're my parents, so why won't you take my side? We are on your side. But face reality. There's no passion left between you and David anymore, is there? Emily shook her head while crying. Just because there's no passion doesn't justify an affair, does it? Her parents didn't answer. Emily looked down at Sophie in her arms. This innocent baby was the only pure presence in this chaos. I understand, Emily said quietly. I understand your feelings very well. But I will never forgive this. And I have my own life. After leaving the room, Emily sat down on a bench in the corridor. Sophie was sleeping again from exhaustion. 6 months later, Emily was looking out at the spring cityscape from the window of her new apartment. In this small town 3 hours from Chicago, she was starting a new life. Sophie had just started toddling. Sophie, good morning, Emily picked up the baby who had just woken up. It's another beautiful day. Since that day, Emily's life had changed dramatically. The day after leaving the hospital, she hired a lawyer and began divorce proceedings. David resisted at first, but Emily's determination was firm, and he eventually accepted her conditions. Sophie's custody became a complicated situation. Jessica suffered mild memory impairment as an after-effect of the accident and needed long-term treatment. Tom learned of his wife's affair and immediately filed for divorce. As a result, Emily ended up taking custody of Sophie. I'm your mama, Emily spoke gently to Sophie. Legally, the formal adoption process was still underway, but Emily already loved Sophie as her own daughter. She continued her part-time job at the library, but had also started working in childcare support. She began working for a local NPO that supported single mothers and mothers in difficult situations. She felt her own experience could help women in similar circumstances. Regarding David and Jessica's situation afterward, Emily occasionally heard updates. Due to the aftereffects of the accident, their relationship had lost its former passion. Jessica's memory impairment meant she sometimes forgot about David, and David himself was tormented by guilt. What they had called burning love quickly faded when faced with real difficulties. David had recently sent Emily a letter asking for reconciliation, but she tore it up without reading it. Her relationship with her parents had also changed. Robert and Margaret initially didn't try to understand Emily's decision. However, seeing the presence of their granddaughter Sophie and Emily's firm will, they gradually came to accept her choice. Still, they never returned to their former intimate relationship. Emily, today is Sophie's birthday party, her neighbor Mary called out. She had become like new family to Emily and Sophie. Thank you, Mary. I'm so grateful you're here, Emily was truly thankful. Emily had learned that relationships bound by true affection and trust, rather than blood ties or legal relationships, were what real family meant. Mary, her work colleagues, and above all, her relationship with Sophie, these were her new family. That evening, a small birthday party for Sophie was held in the little apartment. Neighbors and work colleagues gathered, creating a warm atmosphere. "Sophie, happy birthday," Emily hugged her 1-year-old daughter. Sophie laughed innocently and touched Emily's face with her small hands. "Mama," Sophie said clearly for the first time. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. The struggles and decisions of this past year, and her steps toward a new life, everything seemed rewarded in this moment. "Yes, Mama," Emily hugged her daughter while making a vow. "Mama will never betray you. We're a real family." Outside the window, the sunset was setting. The pain of the past would never completely disappear. But Emily was walking forward, building a new form of family based on honesty and love, unbound by blood or marital relationships. Sophie's laughter echoed through the room. For Emily, it was the most beautiful music of all. Their new life had truly begun now.